Greg Steinke, how are you, sir?
I'm doing fine. Thanks for having me. Really appreciate it.
Outstanding. I'm glad you're here. Health is a kind of a bigger thing now than it was recently. I mean, with RFK Jr. now being the, what is he? Health and Human Services?
Yeah, head of Health and Human Services.
Yeah, and talking about making perhaps some significant changes. And now, did you hear that the new nominee for Surgeon General is Kelly Means?
Yes, I'm familiar with her. Yes, that's amazing.
Very
amazing.
interesting. She has a really strong emphasis on natural health, on lifestyle medicine. So whether that will pass or not remains to be seen. But with her in that seat, health is going to be front and center, I think, and people are going to be learning about lifestyle choices.
That's why we want to live a long time. We want to see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely right. Absolutely. Hey, this is your thing, health and longevity.
Yeah.
Let's discuss that for a minute. I want to live longer.
Yeah.
What should I do?
Yeah, it's really interesting. If you take a little bit of a historical angle for a second, back in the 50s and 60s, people really didn't know much about what made you live longer.
Right.
As we discovered things about heart disease, we realized smoking wasn't good for you, realized that a diet had something to do with it. It became very much a focus on those kinds of things, exercise, diet, smoking, and so on. But I think what's happened more recently, like for example, when you compare the Alameda County study, which was done in the 60s through the 80s, and they came up with the 7 habits that will make you live many years longer, and you compare some of the more recent studies looking at that, the focus is increasingly becoming a one on social relationships, on the interactions that we have with one another, realizing that many of the factors that we used to think were so important, and they are important, social relationships is in some cases more important.
You know what I read recently? Before I tell you what I read recently, when Dan Buettner did his Blue Zone study, he said one reason that these people who live so much longer than others, and he mentioned folks who live in Loma Linda, California, which it wasn't Loma Linda, it was Seventh-day Adventists, but he needed to put a dot on the map, so he called it Loma Linda. He said one of the reasons is that because many of them attend church, they have community. And what I read recently was that loneliness is as bad for you as smoking 15 cigarettes a day.
Isn't that amazing?
Loneliness.
Yes.
That is amazing. So when God created Adam, he created Eve. Point being, there was companionship and community. Evidently, that's really important.
It's absolutely a huge factor, and they're finding, like they just did a massive study, over 300,000 people through the VA, and they found that social relationships had a 50% potential in terms of increasing longevity, in terms of the potential was up to 24 years, and it could dramatically increase the length of time that someone can live. I've lived a life before. I remember before I became a Christian, I had a very lonely experience. And, it's just dramatically improving to your life to have a community that you can be involved with, many times a spiritual one.
Yeah, so let's address that. Let's address the solution to the problem. There's nothing wrong with being alone. If you're an introvert and you get your energy from downtime, that's okay. There's no one saying you need to live in the midst of a crowd. But if you're a social person, you're a social person. And if you're a non-social person, you're a non-social person. And some people live lonely lives. How do you address this? How do you say, okay, it's important to have human contact, so I want to do that. Where do you start if you're isolated for whatever reason?
Well, I can only think of my own personality. When I took personality tests in the past, I came out, I was like 99 out of 100 in terms of introverted.
Oh, that's pretty introverted.
Like there was only one person more introverted than me.
Out of every 100 people?
Yeah, wow. And so that's how I was when I was younger. But I realized that a lot of that had to do with the way I was dealing with my stressors and my sense of attachment. There's something called attachment that is becoming a very important thing when it comes to social relationships. And when you have unstable attachments, so these kind of attachments that are not healthy, you don't feel safe when you're with others sometimes. Sometimes you feel anxious. In my case, I felt, scared when I was with others because of some of the factors that occurred when I was a kid.
Okay.
And so when I would draw too close to people, I would feel scared, and so I would find myself secluding myself a lot. And I think there's a percentage of people who are, quotes, introverts, who don't feel safe around others. And so as that begins to heal, as my faith journey, God slowly began to peel back the onion. I've started to see all sorts of benefits with positive, healthy relationships, and I wanted that.
You're connecting your comeback from extreme introversion
Yes.
to a relationship with Jesus, to a journey of faith.
Absolutely.
So perhaps, look, not forsaking the assembling of yourselves. Church is a community, unless you attend a very, very small church. Not all churches are created equal, but it seems to me, look, I lived in London, England. I knew nobody. I lived in a house with about 4 other people who weren't my friends. There were no issues there, but they weren't friends of mine. It was a pretty lonely existence. And then I started to attend a church, and suddenly, everything changed. I had this massive family that I was a part of. So that's a place to start, isn't it? Church attendance.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is I don't think anyone was made to be a total loner. I don't think anyone was. I mean, when they've done those experiments, not that they were trying to do them, but it just happened to happen, where they had these babies in orphanages, and the babies that never got dealt with, never got interacted with, never got touched, they died.
Yes.
They actually died from lack of interaction.
That's right.
And so we need each other. We are not islands.
And if
we need each other.
If we wanted to look into that, I remember Romania was a place in particular where there was lots of orphanages. I have a friend who went and worked in these orphanages, and she described the conditions. And this was as Romania was coming out of communism. And some of those kids really suffered. No touch, no human interaction.
Yeah, and I think of Proverbs 18:24. A man who has friends must show himself friendly, but there is a friend that sticks closer than a brother.
That's right. So with God in your life, even if you're living 100 miles up a dirt road, there's companionship there. I don't know that this covers up everything, but that's a place to start. When you know you're not alone, when you have fellowship with God, that's going to go some way towards filling the emptiness in your life.
And what I'm saying is that has a lot to do with longevity. That has a lot to do with how long you're actually going to live, how close your relationships are. And some of these studies are looking at 50-year-olds, at people in midlife. And when they ask them, how good are your relationships? If they answer affirmatively and they have good, close relationships, they're much more likely to live longer than folks who don't have that.
So this is interesting, isn't it? We are told by science that if you walk 7,000 steps a day, you have 70% lower mortality from everything. That's phenomenal. Not everybody's able to walk 7,000 steps, but most people are. So if you can, you should. What we're talking about here with interaction with human beings, that's something you can do something about. It might require an adjustment of your attitudes if you feel very timid or, you described some of your own experience, but it is fixable.
Yes, you can absolutely improve that. I had to personally go to counseling to go through a process of healing. I'm still in that process. And, once you start to understand where your emotions are coming from and you start to see the connections to childhood, it's a dramatic improvement. You start to have different emotions coming forward, and the old ones that used to create problems in your life and create fear, now you can start choosing love.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And that's a much better choice.
Much better. Before I ask you a new and different question, let's give 1, 2, 3, 4 things that people can do, because loneliness is bad for you. If you're a loner, I get it. If you're introverted, I get it, sure. No, we don't want to change everybody's personality, but you need people around you. That's how we were created. 1, 2, 3, 4 things that people can do to remedy that. Let's go, just quick.
Go to a church.
Go to church.
Get involved with a community group of some kind.
Right.
Pick something that you're interested in and go check it out.
All right.
Reconnect with family members who perhaps you've been neglecting, who would love to have your association or your interaction.
Excellent idea.
And another one is engaging in your own faith process. so that, and even counseling kinds of things, so that you begin to heal anything that's creating barriers in your ability to interact with others.
Yeah, I would recommend too, number 5, volunteer. Because where you are volunteering, there are other volunteers, and you become part of something. Even if you're a bit of a loner, then it's just fun to be part of something and be around people.
Yeah, you know, when I first started going to church, I was 18 years old, maybe a little younger. I was extremely introverted, but I was really interested in the guitar. I love to play the guitar. That's like all my free time I was doing that. And the pastor heard that I was interested in that, and he's like, hey, meet up with these folks, and would you be willing to stand in the back and play the guitar while we do our music? And I was like, I don't know about that. I was too nervous. And they finally kind of gently got me up there. And, I'm standing in the back playing. And for several, church sessions, I was playing in the back. And then pretty soon, sooner or later, I'm the one leading. Yeah,
Fantastic.
I'm the one leading and singing and so on. So it's just amazing how, like, taking something that you're interested in, and then you're like, I wonder what other people think about this. I wonder how I can interact with others on this particular interest.
Nice.
It just makes your life so much fuller and full of a dynamic that you haven't had before. You may think, I know how my thoughts go, I know how things occur, and I know a lot about this topic. But when you start interacting with others who have an interest in that topic, let's say again, as well, you hear all sorts of points of view that you didn't think about, because our brains are all uniquely created.
No doubt. One trap, I think, is that people feel they're interacting via social media, which perhaps, but social media, by and large, is anti-social media. It tends to be very isolating, I think. Maybe there are ways people can find community there, so if you can comfortably, then that's good. Hara Hachi Bu.
Yeah, that's right.
What is Hara Hachi Bu? I've heard of this thing, and I thought the doctor will know. What's that?
Yeah, so just broadening out our topic of longevity. In the Blue Zones studies, the Okinawans have a saying called Hara Hachi Bu.
Okay.
And the Okinawans are known to live routinely above 100 years of age. And this phrase has to do with food, and it has to do with this idea of not eating to 100% full, eat to 80% full.
I've heard of that. They eat to about 80%. Now, how do you know when you're at 80%?
Well, when we've all maxed out our stomachs before. We know what that feels like.
Yes,
right?
we do.
And so when you're about half full, you have a sense of that. You're like, I could definitely eat some more. About halfway in between, that's where you want to adjust yourself.
This takes discipline, because you quit at 80% and you say, I could eat more. Yeah, you could, but you could end up looking like an anaconda with that great big lump in the middle because of all that food you just consumed. I would recommend that somebody give it a shot, and then give it a shot, and then give it a shot, and you'll settle. You'll settle on that. The first time you try it, you're probably going to think, I need to be eating more food. But it's just not best, is it? To max out all the time.
For most people, it's not. If you have a tendency to gain weight, if you are overweight, you definitely should start to practice that principle. The next time you sit at a meal, look at your plate, look at what you're being served, or however that's happening, and then say, okay, how could I go about eating 80% of this? And not just eating 80%, but eating it in a more careful way that is more studied and slower. There's a lot of research coming out now that shows that if you eat fast, you are harming your health in many ways.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, you'll shove your blood sugars up faster. So people who have a tendency to have diabetes or have blood sugar issues, if you shove your blood sugars up faster, then you shove your insulin up a lot higher. And if you shove your insulin a lot higher, then you'll retain those calories into your fat cells a lot more. And so speed of eating probably has something to do with our weight levels. It has something also to do with our brains. When we shoot up our blood sugars fast after a meal, our ability just to remember sometimes just, what was that person's name? Or, that word, it's not coming to me now. You know, when your blood sugars are higher than they're supposed to be, it's throwing off your brain a little bit, and you'll just have those little bit of changes that as you get older and older will become more and more prominent, more and more prominent. And so slowing down the speed of eating, I mean, it doesn't have to be 30 minutes or an hour, but even going from a couple minutes of eating to 15 minutes of eating, dramatic improvement in your ability for your body to respond to these things.
Dr. Greg Steinke, you are, well, how would you, I was going to describe you as a lifestyle medicine physician. Is that fair? Would you say that?
That is one of my greatest interests. And,
Yeah.
and in my training, I did a family medicine residency and a preventive medicine residency, but it was a combo residency, and the focus was lifestyle medicine. So
Fantastic.
everything we did
Yeah.
was focused around that.
So what you're talking about, someone's listening to you and going, far out, really? I eat too much too quick and that's going to throw me off a little bit? The answer is clearly yes. 2 points that I would make. Do things right. It's obvious, I think, that God didn't create people to go to Five Guys and eat fries until you can't walk out the door, you know? It's clear. So if you just say, how am I supposed to function? That's probably good. The other thing is, things affect your health. Things affect your health. And most of us go through life thinking, I can do just whatever I want, however I want, as long as I kind of keep it within these parameters, and I'll be fine. The fact of the matter is, things affect your health. That's just true.
Absolutely. And when you look at this most recent study that was on, this one was over 700,000 people that they just did.
Big study.
The social relationships were there. The stress management study showing that study showing that affects longevity. Avoiding excess alcohol, we've known that for a long time.
Right.
We know about the sensible diet details. We know about getting a good night's sleep. That is now being shown that increases longevity.
Yeah,
we know about the
more
physical
about that.
activity. This was interesting. Avoid opiate misuse. This is becoming a big problem, and it's starting to be seen in our studies. When people are getting into these more difficult addictions, it is shortening their life significantly.
Sure, yeah. So there are simple things that we can do.
Yep.
What do you say to somebody who says, yeah, but I get great pleasure out of eating more hamburgers than I should, or I get great amount of enjoyment out of doing this. People get connected to the enjoyment, and that can get in the way of making good decisions. How do you help somebody process that?
Well, you talk to them about, okay, you're enjoying that food, and that is a good thing. God gave us the ability to enjoy food, and that's a wonderful thing.
Amen.
But are there consequences occurring? Are you struggling to sleep that night? Are you feeling, you don't feel full for a whole day again, potentially? That's not right. That's not good on your physiology. That's taxing your body in a way that is not ideal. And could you enjoy that food perhaps in a lesser amount and still get the similar amount of joy? I mean, I remember eating some of my favorite foods. I love vanilla ice cream, and starting to begin to cut back and realizing, I could just have one taste, and that's pretty similar to eating the whole bowl. And yeah, sure, I've moved away from that just as I've been more and more careful, but you can go to a birthday party and you can just enjoy one little taste or maybe a small amount of it, and that's going to give you very similar pleasure to eating a whole big amount of it.
And without the regret.
And without the regrets.
Yeah.
And you can still enjoy the social relationships that are prolonging your life as well.
Hey, so I don't hear the lifestyle medicine doctor saying, you better run 1,000 miles from all of that. I hear you, I'm sure you talk about temperance and moderation, but you are leaving the door open to say, if you need to eat ice cream, just eat enough so that you can get the enjoyment without packing on the extra pounds and harming your health.
Absolutely. I think health is about a progressive thing, and trying to force yourself into something that you your emotions are just shoving against as hard as possible is not wise. You want to bring yourself along, and you want to bring your emotions and your choices into one thing, and that is I think the important point with longevity.
You have a practice in this area, a thriving practice. The people I know who see you are grateful to you and your team, giving excellent care and seeing very positive results. We have a few seconds. Let's recap. Loneliness is bad for you.
That's right.
You want to be in community.
That's right.
And the other thing about food that some of us were devastated to hear, but all of us instinctively know that's right. Repeat our Okinawan
Yeah,
phrase.
hara hachi bu, eat to 80% full. You won't regret it. You will feel good for the rest of the day, and it will keep you feeling good for a long time.
Dr. Greg Steinke, thanks. This has been fantastic. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, John.
And we appreciate you being here with us. This has been It Is Written Live.